In this video, we're going to take a look at some baseball cap style hats available from Printify for your print-on-demand business. Before we dive in, I want to mention that Printify is the sponsor of this video and they provided these samples so that we could do this review. All right, so a while back, I did a product review and some selling tips around embroidered winter beanie style hats from Printify, and being that the weather is warming up, it's spring 2023, I thought it'd be good to do a review of some styles of summer style hats available from Printify as well. We have two different print providers represented here. The patch style hat in the center is from Fancy Fanny, which is in the US, and then we have two embroidered hats, both from My Locker, also in the US, but there are some international options in the Printify catalog for hats, which we will take a look at in just a few minutes. So let's start with the patch style hat. This, to me, is probably gonna be your best selling opportunity out of these three. Not that there is an opportunity selling embroidered hats, there certainly is, but the price opportunity I think that the patch style hats represent is a pretty nice opportunity in my opinion. I've also seen a lot of patch style hats available on Etsy, which is my main selling platform, so I think that these are definitely something I want to add to my print-on-demand store. Now, print provider Fancy Fanny offers the patch style hat in both the rectangular and a round style patch. They have a lot of different color options. Even the patch itself can be black or gray in addition to this brown color. And they have different color options for the hat itself, which you'll see when we hop over into the design editor view. But the main selling point I see for these is really the price. You can sell these for $24.99 with free shipping and get a 32% profit margin at the current Printify premium price. So you could certainly do $19.99 with a $5 shipping charge, and I think that's gonna be pretty competitive from a patch style hat standpoint. But now the product itself, it's a fairly lightweight hat. I don't think it's going to be overly warm or anything like that for anybody, but it is a summery style hat anyway. There's a nice bit of firmness in the bill here, so it doesn't feel overly flimsy or anything. And the closure on the back is actually a pleasant surprise. Let me just do a comparison here. The flat bill cap, which overall, I would say the cap material itself might be slightly higher quality than the patch hat, but these have the snap closure on the back, which kind of feels a little cheap in my opinion, whereas the buckle style closure on the patch hat actually feels pretty nice quality and something that is a little bit more customizable in terms of the sizing compared to a snap closure. The patch is not leather, it is an artificial leather. The stitching detail on the patch seems to be pretty nice. I have no concerns there. And let's talk about the print quality. So I did actually use the same design on all three of these because I wanted to see how it would look, how it would come out across both embroidered and a print product. So I went with a monotone color of the design for this print, and I left some relatively smaller elements in there. And it's also a distressed design because I wanted to see if that would come out at all. And so I'll put the graphic up on the screen so you can see how the print file looks compared to how it actually looks on the printed patch. In my opinion, it came out pretty well. I don't know that I picked the best color scheme here. It's a little bit harder to read at a distance with this dark blue color on the brown, but overall, I do think that the quality of these is quite nice. If you do a text-based design, I would just use maybe a little bit larger lettering than I did, so it's a little bit clearer. So as far as overall construction and print quality on the patch, I really don't have any complaints about this. I think for the price that you'll be able to sell it for, it's pretty much right on par with what I would expect. All right, let's talk about the embroidered classic snapback style hat here. So I got this in the navy blue. It has a green bill underneath, which is a sort of the classic color scheme. And the embroidery on this one, again, I intentionally used a design that included some smaller text because I wanted to know, is it gonna come out okay in the embroidery, or is it gonna look, lower quality because it's too small? And I would say it's a little bit of a mixture on both between the two embroidered hats. I think the snapback here, this one came out a little bit better with the embroidery than the trucker hat, which we'll see in just a second. But I wanted to point out two quick things. So as far as the quality of the embroidery, to me, this is very acceptable. Any larger elements like the mountain in the middle here, I believe came out quite nice for the price that you can get these for from My Locker on Printify. Now the pricing of these is higher, which we'll see in the catalog in just a minute. I believe we're looking at in the neighborhood of $32.99. Say you're gonna use the same shipping profile for all your hats and $5 is gonna be your shipping charge. You can back $5 out of that, so you're in the 20s for what the product price would be. I do think, as I mentioned, that the quality of the hat itself, except for the plastic snap, is a little bit nicer quality than a little bit thicker material compared to the patch style hat. So the higher price, I think is warranted, and it's also embroidered, which is always going to cost a little bit more. So no real concerns as far as pricing goes. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out about the embroidery, besides just the general quality, is the colors, because Printify's process with embroidery doesn't allow you to match up colors of your design to thread colors. It's just an automated process. You upload your design, and then they automatically match the design colors to available thread colors. So I'm going to put up the design file again on the screen that I used for the embroidery, and then compare that side by side with the colors of thread that were actually used. So what you don't want to do is use any colors that it's unlikely there's going to be a thread color match for. Now, there is a help page on Printify's website that tells you what thread colors are available so that you can make sure your design is going to match to a thread color that you actually want. So that's the way you have to do it. You can't select thread colors in the listing creation process. You need to have your design already made in the thread colors that you want to use. Otherwise, what'll happen is what happened here. I didn't do that. I just made the design as if it was like a t-shirt design. Basically, you're taking a gamble if you don't pre-match your colors to the ones that they offer available in that help article. Now, fortunately for this one, it actually came out looking pretty acceptable. The only problem I would have is if my mock-ups didn't represent, the color accurately, then they would look different than the real product. So that would be a problem. But as far as the way it actually came out in this case, I'm actually happy with the colors. Now, the distressed trucker hat is priced in between these two. So I think you're looking at probably $29.99-ish for a total retail price on this if you want to go for this. There's only two colors of these available, this gray and like a denim blue. And they all are going to have the same distressing on them already. Now, these actually have a Velcro closure on the back instead of a snap closure, so a little bit of a difference there. My main takeaway on this one is that the embroidery did not come out quite as good as the snapback, the navy blue snapback hat over here. If you take a look at the close-ups, especially the smaller text across the bottom, and then there's an area on the A in the park across the top, which did not come out that great. I personally just not super thrilled with the way the embroidery came out on this one. And this is another example, I think, of if you're gonna sell these, keep your design elements larger, keep your text larger, don't use any real thin lines in your designs. I mean, that's general good practice for embroidery anyway. This is not like specific to this one product that you should be staying away from really thin, fine lines and things like that when you're doing embroidery designs. It just seems to be extra apparent on this one, even the difference between these two. For whatever reason, they came out a little bit different, and I think the snapback came out a little bit better. So like I said, my overall favorite of the three is the patch style hat. I think these represent a pretty nice selling opportunity because of their very competitive price and their flexibility, because you don't have to worry so much about color matching and things like that since they're not embroidered, they're just printed. So you really just need to make sure you're not using any design elements that are super small, because this is a pretty small print area, so they would be kind of hard to see the detail if you made anything too small. But otherwise, very easy to design. And speaking of design, let's jump over to the computer. We'll take a look at the design editor process for these products, the catalog options you have, and maybe a couple niche ideas. All right, so let's take a look at the options in the catalog here, and we'll point out a couple of quick things about the design process. So for Printify's hat choices here, as you can see, you've got several. Here are the two patch options that we took a look at the rectangular one, but there's also this circular patch here, and for a slightly lower price. These are Printify premium prices. In some other countries, you also have some additional styles. These trucker mesh style hats are available from Print Logistic as well as Duplium in Canada. You've got another option here from Duplium in Canada, and you also have the twill hat, the unisex regular twill hat from My Locker, and then there's our unisex flat bill hat. That's the other sample that we had. When it comes to those patch style hats, there are a lot of color choices if you see here on the screen. So let's just take a quick peek at those. The variants available include all of these combinations. So there is a gray patch, a light brown patch, and a black patch available in multiple hat combinations. For example, here's that same design printed all in monotone with one color on a black hat with a black patch. So you've got options like that. You've also got a lot of different combos that you can offer all within the same listing, which is nice if you want to change up the color scheme of your design at all and make it specific to each patch color. You can, just like you can with any other design. And the design editing process is very similar to what it is for other products because these are printed. So there's really nothing special you need to know other than what I mentioned earlier about just making sure that you size your designs appropriately as far as the size of text or the size of elements, because this is a pretty small print area. Now, there are a lot of different directions you can go for niches as far as hats in general, but there's a couple that I thought were coming up pretty frequently as the patch style in search results when I was poking around a little bit. One of them is a very common text-based design for like coffee mugs or t-shirts, especially as we get closer to Father's Day. In the US, it's not quite Mother's Day yet, but Father's Day in June comes pretty quickly after Mother's Day. And here is an example of when you look for Dad Est 2023, so Dad Established 2023 hat. That search phrase currently has 1,600 search results on Etsy, and like almost every result is a patch style hat. So the search volume probably isn't super high year round for this specific phrase. Around Father's Day, maybe around Christmas, around gift time in the fourth quarter, probably going to be a little bit higher than consistently throughout the year. But this is a great example of a super, super simple design that you could make, change the year every year, and make a few sales here and there with it. You might want to try and do something a tiny bit different than what you see on all the page one search results, because there's an awful lot that look very similar here. It could be as simple as just using a different color scheme and different patch color, because a lot of them are looking like they're using the brown patch. Basically, just do what you can to stand out from the competition. Pricing-wise, there are a few that are in the low 20s, but generally, I'm not seeing any in the low 20s that have free shipping. So that means they're not going to be in the low 20s once you add a shipping charge. The ones that do have free shipping are in the high 20s, which is a good sign, because remember, the patch style hat, we could get away with selling it for $24.99 with free shipping, for a 32% profit margin, so you could definitely be competitive in a niche like this. Now, when it comes to the embroidered hats, the design and upload process is definitely a little bit different, because remember, this is something that you can't really edit. You can't change anything once you upload it, so you need to make sure that your design is centered in the print area, that it's positioned the way you want it to be, and that the colors are correct for the thread options that are available. As you can see here, and as I showed before, there are 3 colors in this design. And what happened was it came out with the text being blue, basically like a light blue, and then the mountain and the text all were just the same color. And that happened automatically. That was not, I didn't match those colors. It just does it automatically for you. They do have a design template here you can download, and it's got PSD and AI files for you to use if you use any program that can open either of those 2 file types. You can also just make sure that you're creating a file in the correct aspect ratio, so the rectangular shape, so that it doesn't get changed when it gets uploaded, because remember, you can't adjust it after you upload it. And it will tell you right in the corner here, it's behind my head, isn't it? Right here in the corner, it will tell you the print area size. So it's 1200 by 720. So if you're not using the template, if you're using Canva or Kittl or something like that where you can't open the template that's available, then just make sure your file is 1200 by 720, and then you will be good to go. As far as the colors go for the threads, you can, of course, avoid what happened with mine where the color changed because I wasn't paying attention to it. If you just come to the this help article on Printify site, I'll put a link to this in the description. They have a listing of all 16 of the available thread colors for their embroidered products, and it's got the hex codes there, so you can just copy the hex codes over into your design file before you export it, so you know the colors are going to match. A potential niche idea that I thought would be interesting to take a look at for either the embroidered hats or the patch style would be some of the U.S. national parks. This one in particular, Zion National Park hat, is one that only has 1,600 search results right now. And you'll see a variation here of text embroidered designs as well as patch style designs. But it looks like there'd be a good opportunity to have a few listings in here. And you just want to be careful when you're doing anything like this, of course, just like any other niche. Take a look at your trademarks. I didn't see anything active for just Zion or Zion National Park that would apply to apparel or hats. But you always want to make sure you do your trademark checks before you create any new designs, especially with these types of things where you're using the name of a landmark or a park or something like that. And there are a few other color combination options that you have for those flat bill hats as well, the ones with the snap closure on the back. So there's a few options available for my locker here. And the pricing on these, remember I said, is higher than those patch style hats. So it's $14.20 for the hat and $4.50 to the US for shipping. So we're looking at needing about $32.99, I think, total price, including shipping, to get about a 32% profit margin. So you can definitely back that down, like take the shipping out, don't do free shipping, and get your product price below $30, which that should look fairly competitive with some of the other hats that we saw in those two niches we just took a look at. A lot of them were in the upper 20s, so I think you can still be competitive with these. And from a design standpoint, the same embroidery general guidelines, apply here that apply to any embroidery. You just want to stay away from very fine details, really small details in a design, or really thin lines, because they can come out looking a little bit like that mesh trucker style hat that we saw the sample of, where a couple of the areas didn't look like super crisp. They didn't look that great. But if you stick to bigger design elements and large, blocky text, then you should be fine as far as the embroidery results. Well, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you found this information helpful. Let me know in the comments if it was, and hit that like button so YouTube can show the video to more people. Let me know also if you have questions about any of the hats that are available from Printify, or if you've had success selling any of the hats that are available in the catalog. Don't forget to head over to podinsights.net for helpful resources, and subscribe to the POD Insights channel if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.